My name is Matt Hart. I'm the VP of Sales here at CINC. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to my good friend Burl to give you guys some knowledge and hope we have a great interactive session today.
Thanks, Matt. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. We're going to talk about objection handling in a shifting market, but I want to talk about it from a different perspective than what you might be thinking. What's happened right now is we're using old school scripts and old school messaging with a new world problem. And we have new problems that are existing in the marketplace, and people aren't responding to the way we've been messaging. When I go online or I listen to calls where presenters and speakers and coaches are talking about how to overcome objections and resolve concerns, I feel like I'm going back to the 80s. And we don't live in the 80s. And this world is very different today. The consumer is more savvy than ever before. They have so many different sources of news and information and things like that are coming to them. And we have a higher level of emotional, not only emotional intelligence, but emotional disconnect. And so as real estate agents and as brokers and as team leaders, when we're trying to convert opportunities, we really shouldn't be trying to figure out how to manipulate somebody by using a slick script. What we need to do is we need to use emotional intelligence to find out what the real fear is or what the real threat is, and use threat-based marketing then to address what's going on in the marketplace to get them re-engaged in buying and selling. And it's a very different approach. How many of you are open to a different approach of serving your clients? Instead of the old, are you buying, are you lying, slick dialogue to get people moving forward. I think that today, the consumer's tired of it. Are any of you tired of it? Like tired of just having people push you all the time and try and talk you into stuff? We switched the way we sell coaching a while ago, and now it's not about selling coaching. Now we do consultations, and we just want to know if we think we're a good fit. And if we are, let's work together. If we're not, it's totally fine. Then we'll give you things that you can use. So that approach has completely changed the kind of people that come into the program. When you're talking people into buying and selling that aren't really ready to buy and sell, then you waste your time with people, don't make decisions. But when you help people remove threats and they genuinely engage because they see a clear path forward, now you've got people that are going to close. And that's what I want to talk about today is the threat-based marketing. So you guys ready? You ready to buckle up and let's go? All right. So I'm going to share my screen real quick. I have to do a quick share, and then it's going to desktop one, and then I'll start my slide deck and we'll go from there. Right now you see nothing. Okay. So Matt, you see my center screen with your picture, your smiling mug on it?
I see it.
All right. We're going to keep it. So here's what's happening in the marketplace right now. Hang on a sec. All the news is coming from CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. And when anybody posts or does anything, it goes viral. How many of you saw this Elon Musk thing that came out last week? Elon Musk predicted that home prices are going to crash next. The commercial real estate's already in the tank, and the whole market's going to melt down. And then CEOs of real estate companies and NAR tried to respond to it. It was really interesting when this came out. Well, that's what your consumer is seeing. And so here we are trying to sell them houses, and they're seeing this and oh crap, I don't want to buy a house right now. Everything's going to crash. And so they're using what's happening from the media. We've got people that are trying to sell their houses by themselves because they've gotten into a situation where they don't have the same equity because they bought at the top of the market, and the life events that occur cause them to continue to move, and they have a high level of frustration. And so what happens is we have this crazy amount of data that's coming into the marketplace. Right now, you're seeing this a lot. We have high mortgage rates combined with increased inflation with a low supply of home. And when you add those two things together in the consumer's mind, it's creating this inability to move forward. How many of you would say, and you can go into the chats, that you have people in your database that should be buying or selling right now, but are stuck and they can't move forward because they don't know what they don't know. And so that fear of moving forward has caused them to be stuck. Well, that is a true, legitimate, authentic emotion of feeling stuck. And so when somebody feels stuck or overwhelmed or confused, what they do is nothing. And so the feeling or the emotional intelligence of that is when you feel stuck, we just don't move forward. We just take inaction and we wait and see. And oftentimes wait and see is not the best thing for the client. So we're not really serving them by allowing their source of information to come from news outlets who overemphasize negativity. So what most people do when they see threats like this is, if you've ever done a SWOT analysis, you do your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. And then what the business professionals teach about the threats is things you should be aware of, but not take any action. Okay, so what I do is I look at the threats, and with one of my master coaches, his name is Cleve Gaddis. He has a very different way of looking at the world. He looks at threats and says, okay, in my real estate practice, how can I use threats to message differently to the consumer to move them from stuck to engaged? And so we've created this threat-based marketing concept, and we built a program called Shift that uses emotional intelligence to do that. We're using it all over the country with our coaching clients, and they're having phenomenal success. Have you ever seen this before? This is called the emotions wheel. And so when you have a client that's feeling fear or anger or sadness, then you look at the outside of the wheel that's scared, terrified, insecure, or anxious, worried, mortified. Those are all fear-based emotions. If you're looking at the orange on the right-hand side, our goal in messaging when we use emotional intelligence is to use words and phrases and information that take them out of the fear state and move them into either happiness or surprise or love. We want to move them from a fear-based state into a positive emotional connection. And when they have a positive connection, then they will be optimistic and hopeful and excited instead of anxious, worried and dreadful. Does that make sense? And so when we're talking about threat-based marketing and overcoming objections and moving people from where they are in a stuck and frustrated mode to moving forward, this is not slick dialogue. This is emotional intelligence that we have learned from some of the brightest people in the world who specialize in emotional intelligence and applying tools and resources to create systems that move people forward. And so let me give you the first Shift module. And so here's how Shift works. The goal is to re-engage buyers and sellers, getting them off the sidelines back into buying or selling. The second goal is to resurrect dead leads. How many of you have dead leads in your CINC platform where they engaged with it for a while, now they haven't done anything for a long time, and you need to get them re-engaged? So we want to re-engage dead leads. If you don't have CINC, we're going to talk about that because it's a phenomenal platform. And then the last part is to gain market share. What the difference between average and exceptional is in a market that gets hard, the average people look for jobs. And they blame everything on their failure to succeed. The exceptional look for opportunities to take market share. And so when you understand people are going to continue to move, whether the rates go up or not, and that this is a massive opportunity to take market share and you lean into the business differently, you have an opportunity to grow. I would like to know from you all, I mean, where are you? Are you like, I want to take market share and grow, or are you sitting on the sidelines hoping it passes? Like, what are you really feeling? And if you don't mind just using the chat and kind of telling me what your emotions are there, like tell me what you're feeling as an agent. Taylor says, let's take over market share and totally dominate. If you're not growing, you're dying. I agree with that. Optimistic and grow. Awesome. You want to take market share, totally dominate, like legally, go to the moon. I love Austin. Let's take over growth. Nobody says that they want to sit on the sidelines. I think that's probably why you're here, is you're not here to learn how to be average, right? Like no one jumped on this call with me to learn how to be average, learn how to be great. I was just on a call. I finished a coaching call, like literally 1 minute before joining this call, with a client who last year did 6.5 million in gross closed income. And what we're focused on in her business is how to grow that this year. In her marketplace, the MLS sales are down 40%. And she's down 20%. And we have to figure out how to take it to have growth instead of have loss. And so it's good that we're not going as bad as the market, but it's not good that we're not growing. And so our focus is, what are we going to do? And we've got a very specific strategic plan for that. Good first world problems to have. But when we look at financials and where people are spending their money, there's very few things that give you the right return. So let me go back to my share screen for just a second. All right. So the way that Shift works is the first thing we do is we give you a story. So we give you a scenario. We call it the threat system, interest rate offset, whatever. And then we give you a story of an agent or a client who is going through a program. And I want you to pay attention to the emotional intelligence phrases that we use in there and how they're feeling stuck, confused, frustrated. And then we talk about how the solution happened. And when you get a threat-based system like this, and I'm going to give you all some of these, I want you to read them out loud with your teams. Read them out loud, practice them, say them over and over. And then we're going to give you a tool or resource that addresses that threat. And then we're going to give you a script on how to use it with your client. So I'm not just going to tell you, here's some theories. I'm going to give you the actual resources that you can use in your business. So I'll give you a page. You can download some of this stuff later. Okay. All you have to do is pay attention and say, please, and I'll give it to you. So let's first talk about the first threat. The first threat that we'll talk about is the river of real estate. So the river of real estate, the story is about a young man who has a client that doesn't want to move forward because they think everybody's stopped buying and selling houses. And so they don't want to put their house on the market because nobody's buying and selling right now because everybody's pausing. And so we use the story of the river of real estate to talk about why people move. There's a Harvard study that goes along with it. We talk about the number of the population that moves every year. And by the way, people move because they get married, they have children, all their children move out, they get relocated, they go through this whole process. And when they go through this process, that causes them to move. It's the life events that occur that cause people to move. People don't move because of rising interest rates or lowering interest rates. It's life events. And so here's the river of real estate. The first thing we'll give you is the problem, the real solution, and the way to script it out, and then the assignments to go move forward with the river of real estate. I'm going to teach you how to communicate this. So when somebody uses the objection, well, the market's not hot anymore, we're not getting multiple offers, I think I'm going to wait till the market changes to move. What you're saying is that, even in the worst economy, the market only dropped like 14% in 2008. And so 85% of the people that have life events that occur are still going to move. And by not having your house on the market, you're not going to be one of the choices they make. They're going to move whether your house is on the market or not. You want to be one of their choices. And so we give you this whole process, and they get feeling like they're more excited about that. This is more about understanding that people are going to continue to move. When you read through this, and I missed a couple of slides on this, there's a Harvard study, there's a number of people, and then we actually give you a calculator to calculate the number of people that are going to move in your marketplace based on your population. And then you can give them a real number that says, hey, based on our calculation, there's going to be 1.7 million people or 230,000 people in our marketplace over the next 12 months that move. And so once you understand that, and you're only selling 17 houses, you know how much market share there is to go get. And that's how you understand the marketplace. So the first one is a river of real estate. And I want to make sure that you understand how that works and that that's available to you. So this is the next threat. Interest rates is huge. The Fed funds going up, the markets are going up. Everybody's talking about that. Fed raises rates another 0.25%. Like, you see this on the news constantly and all the time. So the threat is the increased interest rates makes house payments unaffordable. So the consumer believes, I can't buy a house. I'm so frustrated. Everything I was looking at a year ago, I can't qualify for today. Anybody heard that? Oh yeah, I was going to buy 350. Now I can only get 220. It's like they have all these things that they can't go moving forward. And so we created a system called the interest rate offset system. And in the interest rate offset system, I'm going to show you how we calculate that. But the goal is so one of the things when I give you these words or carefully crafted messaging, I want you to listen to the proprietary language that I use. So if I was talking to Brian, and Brian says, I just can't buy a house. Like, I can't buy the same kind of house. I would say, I totally understand that. A lot of people feel like they're stuck and they can't move forward because rates have gone up and they're waiting for rates to go down. But housing prices continue to go up. So by waiting, you're not going to be able to buy more. Exactly, over time, you're going to end up buying less. And so I'm not saying I could do this, Brian, but if I could offset the difference you're paying over the next 7 years in a mortgage moving forward and have it not cost you any more than if you would have bought a year ago, would you consider continuing to look for a property? And Brian's going to nod and say, absolutely. So we have this dialogue that moves him from I'm stuck to now I'm considering moving forward. And then I'm going to show you how we actually do it. So there's the interest rate offset system. The first thing we do is we give you a story. Then we give you a script for it. And then we give you a calculator. And here's how the calculator works. So you put in the purchase price of what they were looking for in the beginning. We put in their down payment, 10% or whatever. Then we put the loan amount in, and we put the term, and then we put the prior interest rate. So with when they were looking at the market, it was 3.75. Today it's at 5.25 or 6.25, whatever it is. The difference in the monthly payment is $441. That makes sense? See that at the bottom? So you fill in all the yellow highlighted areas and it calculates the difference. My job, Brian, as your realtor, is to offset as much of that as possible. So over the next 7 years, it's going to cost you $37,043. Now, I can't predict the future, but I know historically that over the next 3 to 5 years, rates are going to drop significantly. And I believe that Rates are going to drop and prices are going to go up. There's going to be an offset of those two things. And so my job as your realtor is over the next 5 to 7 years, I want to have enough offset in the way we negotiate the price, get seller concessions, interest rate buy downs. There's all kinds of things we can do to offset that. I'm not trying to offset the difference for 30 years. I'm trying to offset it 5 to 7 because every 5 to 7 years people move or we'll be able to refinance it. And that's $37,000. If I could save you the $37,000 in concessions or as much of that as possible, is there any reason you wouldn't continue looking at property? So I'm going to give them the calculator. I'm going to give it a proprietary name. When somebody says, I can't move forward. Oh, you probably haven't heard of our interest rate offset system. What do you mean interest rate? Oh, it's so cool. When can we meet? And then you sit down with them, go through the math, and then you show them what your goal is to offset. Now, how many of you saved your clients $20,000, $25,000 in interest rate buy downs, seller concessions, builder concessions, like different things in order to get the deal done right now? 2 years ago, we couldn't do it because the houses are selling so fast. Today, we're actually seeing incentives happening to get deals sold. And so that's how we do it. So when we're done with that, then I give you the module. It was so cool. So I took Rianne Rudd, who's one of our team leaders, and she had people that were just hesitant moving from, transitioning from renting to buying. We have all these renters right now. Rents have gone up so much, it's cheaper to buy. And she looked at different ways to offset that. And so she went out there and she started presenting it to people that were renting, and they found a house offered $20,000 under the asking price. They didn't get 20, but they got 17. And so what happened is she got the buyer off the sidelines to start looking. When they start looking, what happens is they get emotionally connected to the property, and then all bets are off. Now we're going to do the best that we can. At the end of the day, with the offset and with the other seller concessions, she offset $27,000, and it was specifically related to the interest rate offset system. So if I give you the system, how are you going to apply it? So one of my top agents, I asked him why they share everything. Why do you give everything to people? And they said, because people will copy everything but my hard work. So let's start with this. What if we actually do anything with it? How about we start role playing with our teams? How about we start communicating with everybody who's a B buyer or a C buyer that's not engaged, and just say, hey, I'd like to do a webinar on the interest rate offset and show you how you continue to move forward. Or how about we do a face-to-face? Or what if you had it at every open house where you got people looking through open houses and you have a handout that says, this is my interest rate offset program. You've heard of that? You got to say things differently and use that proprietary language, communicating and setting proper expectations, bring them to builders who are offering high incentives. Okay, brilliant. So David says, okay, so I'm going to look for builders that are already doing the incentives. When I look through what the client situation is, how much you need to offset, you can say, I actually have 6 or 7 properties that are on the market right now that I know that they have those offsetting incentives. Why don't we go look at those properties? I love that, David. That's a great way of doing it. I'm going to give you some other things you can do too, getting people off the fence. Okay, so love the comment, and I hope you don't mind me asking what you're going to do with it, because action is what determines your value in the marketplace, not knowledge.
Earl, is there a good way to bridge the gap between what people are seeing on the news, the negative news that they're seeing, and then earning the right to be able to have this conversation, right? So not just being able to show them, but like earning the right to have that conversation when people are stuck in the echo chamber of the news that they're hearing every day.
Yeah, great question. You have to speak louder and become the trusted advisor. They're going to CNN for news or Fox News, but you're not saying anything. We're popping by with a jar of jam and hoping they use us because we gave them some jam. And we got to stop being average in the marketplace and start being experts. Like the messaging that you give to people when you stop by. And I'm a big fan of having a referral-based business, but stop by with something of value and put them in their hands, because everybody knows someone who's stuck and frustrated. When you do your social media posts, when you do your videos, when you do your blog posts, when you send out your geographic marketing cards, when you have anything that's happening in marketing, start talking about the interest rate offset. Create a free download, give it away, give the calculator away, figure out your own thing and get an information exchange. There's so many things you do with it. So Matt, you just have to speak often, and you have to be at the front of the mind by communicating with it. I would go through, what I would love to do is I think everybody open up their CINC, and they should start with the A's and make a call to every single person. If you don't get them on the phone, click text and say, if you haven't heard about our interest rate offset, we've got client saving up to, and then put a number in it, and then say, give me a call if you want to learn how. Boom. And let's see if we can start doing things in the platform that'll re-engage our clients. The goal is to get them off the fence and move them from feeling stuck and frustrated to optimistic and excited.
Love that. Yeah, we actually just had a client testimonial. We saw they had reached out 7 times to somebody over 5 days. And that person finally re-engaged. And where most agents would have just given up after a couple of attempts, that, constant reach out was actually seen as they were grateful. They said, thank you for being persistent following up. I've just been working late and it's been difficult for me to get back to my personal communication. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
I love that, Matt. Following up is not like, you're not bugging people if you show up with value in your hands. You're only bugging them if you're trying to get them to buy or sell when they don't want it, or you're trying to talk them into using you. I want you to serve regardless of opportunity, and I want you to follow up with people until they buy or tell you to die. Like Afi, I want you to follow up until they file a restraining order. Like, we follow up. You know why people don't use us? Because they don't know us. You have to do it better than anybody else, and you have to be more frequent about it. Average is easy, but greatness is predictable. I can look in your CINC and I can tell you whether or not you're going to get a great result based on the touches you're having. And I can also tell you whether you're going to get an average result. Greatness is predictable, so is average. You guys want another module? All right, here's another one. We call this one the new construction advantage. So what happened is, when during COVID, all the builders ran a shortage on lumber, wiring, appliances, roofing materials. And so everybody over-ordered and they stocked their warehouses. And these big nationally traded companies, these big national builders that are publicly traded, now have all this inventory they've overpaid for, and they've got stuck and their houses are sitting. And they have all this pressure from their board of directors and from their CEOs to move forward. And so we have a program called the New Construction Advantage. And we can't afford a new construction now because everybody bought at such a high price. We take them through this whole story. We go through the 8 tips for negotiating with builders, and we give that to you as, here's the 8 things to do when you go in to negotiate with a builder. And then when you're doing your prospecting and your marketing, I give you the 18 reasons you need buyer representation when working with a builder. And so would that be something you could easily market out to your CINC database and say, hey, if you want a free copy of my 18 reasons why you need a buyer when looking for new construction, how we save you money. And so we've got this whole program for that and how to get that. And so when you read the story, we give you the tips, we give you the why you need representation, and then we go do it. Now, here's what's cool about this. I have 2 employees that were both buying new construction. John Miller's one of them. He's a new homeowner. He helped us build the program. And then he went out, worked with one of our agents. They were long-term renters, 13 years, and they were afraid of buying a house. And they watched from the sidelines their dream of home ownership go away because rates were at 2%, then 3%, and then 6%. They're like, I'm out. And then we shared with them as we were developing the new construction advantage. We calculated everything back. It was really cool to see them go this emotional transformation from stuck and frustrated to go another 5 years renting after 13 to we just closed on our new house and they're now in their new home. And it was 100% because of the new construction advantage. And they got a brand new home in the same neighborhood as Austin, who's my operations manager. Austin was interesting because when we were helping him buy a house, we got him under contract. He was already under contract. And then the builder started putting houses up and offering incentives that he didn't get on his property. So we literally went back and taught him how to renegotiate over that. He utilized the 8 tips of negotiating with builders, saved $30,000 up front before he closed, and over $200,000 over the lifetime of his loan. Okay, so what just happened right here? What did I just do? I'm teaching you how to sell a system. Stories sell. People relate to other people who have gone through the same frustrations as them, that moved their emotion from stuck to excited and then closed. And you talk to John about how excited he is about he was able to buy a home with his now 2 kids and his wife having another one. I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking, okay, so we have a little young family that didn't think they'd ever be able to realize the dream of home ownership that's now moved into a home in a marketplace where everybody else is holding back. Do you know of anybody who might be holding back that shouldn't be because they aren't given the right information? And if you answer yes to that, so do all of your relationships. And so now you could do a shift module every month if you wanted to. And so as you're messaging to all of these individuals, what happens is you start telling stories and you celebrate other people's successes. People go, oh, that's me. I want that. And that's when they raise their hand. So stories sell. So what I'm teaching you is use the threat, use the emotional connection piece, find and tell a story. If you don't have one, borrow mine because I don't tell them unless they're true. Borrow my story, share it with your database, market to it till you can create your own. So we borrow each other's brand equity until we have our own. All right, here's my next one. This is also a fun one. This is actually a real protest on stop raising our rents. You know, what happened is during COVID, because of the housing shortage and the lack of inventory for rentals, what did all the property managers do? Boom, they all raised prices on rent. So now these people that were renting have all these increased houses. As soon as their lease is up, they're paying more. My sister-in-law went from $1,600 a month to $2,400 a month to stay in her same place. You know why? Because the market would bear it and the manager didn't care. So we have all this crazy news going out there. The cost of listings are going up, prices are going up, rates are going up, people are renting, and they just wonder if you should just stop. I don't know if you know this, but we just did some research. You know that Miami's going to grow 30%, Tampa 28%, Phoenix 25%. Like that's the cost of rising rents in those marketplaces. Like that's huge. So if you're paying $1,000, it's $1,300. If you're paying $2,000, it's $2,600. It's the price of renting in these major metropolitan areas is big. In most areas, that's the case. So how do we deal with it? So what's the emotion that happens with rising rent? Fear of not being able to afford to make your rent payments, feeling like you'll never be able to move into a home. Like there's so many things there. There was a recent study that talked about how millennials didn't want to buy houses. They all wanted to be in urban properties and go see the world, live in tiny houses. It's a bunch of crap. People want homes. Like they just want homes. And so if you listen to all the news, I mean, Walmart's selling tiny houses now. So that's happening in the marketplace. So how do we deal with it? So we created the shift module to buy or not to buy system. We do a whole story where we talk about the agent who had clients who were deciding whether they should rent versus buy. And there's all of these calculations that you put into place. And we created it. We created this phenomenal calculator that puts all of the stuff in there. And then we help them decide. And then we have a script of coaching to it, of actually what you say when you're calling people who are currently renting. And there are so many of them. And so then we call them and we go through and we get them off the fence and get them moving forward. I'm going to check that right there. So Mahalo is one of our coaching clients and also somebody who coaches. They do, 300 plus transactions a year. And she said we had an agent that was using the rent versus buy shift module to get somebody under contract that would have waited until their lease was over. But the shift is they're motivating their agents to provide solutions and getting them calling. In January last year, they wrote 26 contracts. In January this year, they wrote 32 using shift. Like, I love that. How many of you wish you could do 32 a year, let alone 32 a month? Right? That's like, this is someone who is they prospect, they have daily huddles, they work together as a team, and they've got big. And last year they did 26 appointments. Oh, sorry. This year they met 86 appointments in January. It's the same number as 22, but the impact was, it would have been more impact with 600 less conversations. So they set more appointments with fewer conversations because they had better dialogue. Does that make sense? There's not a lot of time that she says that I celebrate, but when it comes to closing on the phone, I contribute that skill to the power of the program. And so like they're celebrating their wins because of the power of the program. I'm going to go off share and see if I got a tool. We're going to talk through this. And then I want to make sure that we have some time to do some Q&A. Okay, so here's the buy or not to buy system. The yellow fields are edited. So we put in the marginal tax rate, what rate's your client in, the estimated appreciation of what's going on in your market. We put in the home price purchase, 400,000, 10% down, whatever their down is. And then it automatically estimates closing costs. We put in the monthly rent to 2,800. And then we say, okay, so your annual rent is 33, renter's insurance, total annual cost of renting is 33,815. The monthly cost of 2,800. Now down here, we put in where our rates today, 6.5%. This is not the old, like really basic rent versus own calculator. This is like, how do we get to real to see what the offset is? And so you fill in all of the yellow things and it calculates and gives you the bottom line that it costs you $16,500 more a year to continue renting instead of buying. And then I can change the interest rate and say, let's go to 7% and see what it is. And what if we got a 2-1 buy down and we bought the interest rate down? I can change that and then come back here and show what it is. The annual cost of buying a house is $24,000. This is so cool. For the summary with a standard deduction, this shows you the offset. And the calculator is so powerful. Like we go through like 100 different iterations of this before we get it to the point where it actually makes sense. And so think about from a marketing perspective, how you would use this. I can think of like Facebook and Instagram and TikTok posts. Yeah, I know what TikTok is. Talking about is renting your smartest option. Clients save thousands buying instead of renting. Get free rent versus own calculator, click here. And each one of those downloads or things that they do creates an information exchange where they do what I call as a double opt-in. So they've already opted into home search. Now you got to give them something more in your communication with the client to get them engaged and off the fence. Matt, are you getting excited about this as I'm sharing it?
Very much.
I just want to make sure you and I are on the same level of excitement.
Absolutely.
All right. I got a couple other things I'm going to share with you.
And I do love this, bro. Like for the 6 years that I've been in this industry, in this job, like what I have seen sets apart the elite agents, teams, and brokerages is systems and processes, right? So they're prepared for those conversations, right? They're not the ones who are just looking for where's my next deal going to come from, right? It's preparing to be successful in the future that sets people apart, right?
100%. I'm going to give you the river of real estate, interest rate offset, new construction advantage to buy or not to buy. Right. We produce about 2 of these a month, and I've got a library of these, and we use them for our coaching clients. And so we give our coaching clients kind of an unfair advantage in the marketplace as we're helping to move forward. I'm going to give you 4 modules. You guys, just for being here, you can have them. And I want you to use them. Like these are like my 4 favorites. So like, I'm not giving you you think these are good. The next ones are good too. These are phenomenal. So grab your phones and get the QR code off my screen and make sure you download it. Look, we practice what we preach. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to give you something of value with no strings attached. You're going to go into a follow-up system. Somebody from my team is going to call you and say, are you performing at the level you wish you could, or would you like to go to another level? If you'd like to go to another level, set up a coaching consult and talk to us. And we'll go through and see if we're a good fit. And if we are, great, let's work with each other. If not, that's okay too. We're going to give you a value in the conversation. Everybody cool with that? Like, you don't want to learn how to sell from someone who doesn't know how to sell. Okay. And so like the systems and processes that we're teaching, we practice. So a couple other things. Okay. So my new keynote this year is called Predictable Greatness. Greatness is predictable. And in every business I've ever been in, everything I've ever done, we focused on how to create predictable greatness. What are the things you can do consistently to get a predictable outcome? And there are so many things that we can do with that. So I'm going to give you a few things that I call it my top 8. And these are things that I focus on. If I were coaching you right now to be the leader of a team, these are the things that I would focus on. First of all, I want you to understand that accountability is not something I can do to you, but it's a choice that you make. Accountability is the most important choice you'll ever make. Accountability is like we think that when someone doesn't do what they're supposed to do, accountability is beating them up until they do it. My job as a coach is to understand what drives you and make sure that you're reminded of the things that are most important to you, so you do the hard things and you choose accountability. It's not something I do to you. And so think of yourself as you're growing a team. Number 1 is, are you the kind of leader that you would follow? Do you set the example for your team on how to do this business right, or do you just go tell them to do it? I think that as real estate agents, we start teams and no one's really teaching leadership development, and we have to learn how to be leaders. And so we're really focused at Workman on developing leaders. The second thing is you got to bring the goods. You got to message to the threats. You got to empower your clients to keep them engaged. You got to remember that if I give you a toolbox, I'm going to give you like 4 shift modules. I'm giving you this, what do you call it? I'm giving you these shift modules, but if you don't do the activities to share them with your clients, how good are they? That's right. Alfie's like, nada. The next thing is to know your numbers. Here's some numbers I want you to know. Every listing you generate should close 1.5 buy-side transactions. For every listing you get, you should close 6. You should generate 6 to 8 leads a month. Every 25 leads we generate, we add a buyer's agent. When we build teams, it's based on data and numbers, and we do things systematically. And that's why our teams grow, and that's why they dominate in the marketplace. You've got to know your numbers. The next thing is we're all creatures of habit. Matt, you and I are creatures of habit. We get up every day. We have a routine. It's probably very similar. You know, we go to the gym, we pump iron. No, I'm just kidding. That's yours, not mine. I get up and I have breakfast. I go swim laps in the pool. I'll sit down and visit with my kids about their day, and I get my mind ready for the day. We're creatures of habits. Are your habits consistent with your goals? Meaning, are you focused on the things that are going to move the needle for you financially, or are they not? And if you're not, what we have is we have a thing called the daily success habits tracker, where we have you track what you do in 30-minute increments. Plus, we do 61 points a day doing dollar productive activities. And what happens is we start to gain clarity on where the gaps are, and then we coach to the gaps. It's just a fascinating concept. The next is you got to every team, every office, every brokerage, every family has a culture, and you get to intentionally or accidentally create that culture. Intentionally, I would say that the higher performers create a culture of production, meaning we come in every day, we have a daily huddle, we role play scripts and dialogues around shift, we get on the phones and we prospect for new business, and then we get into our CINC and we do lead follow-up. And so that culture of productivity has a rhythm to it of success. We lead by example. I like to say it, anything you do 3 times, my gosh, get a system for it and hire a tactical coach. This is not the time in business where you need somebody to help you with your mindset. Rick, if you're broke and you're seeing your revenue go down and you're working more hours, you don't need someone to tell you to feel better. You need someone to tell you what to do. And so you need a tactical coach that says, look, here's what's going on in the market. This is what you got to do. Here's how we're going to get there. Now go do it and show me you did it. And when you have someone who's tactical like that, you'll get to success faster. And so I think there's a place for making sure your head's in the right space. But where we are right now is we've got to get tactical. And the agents that are tactical are growing, and the ones who are not are really motivated, but they're not making any money. I'd rather have you not be. So a few Verlisms is we lead with revenue. And I want to share with you a couple of cool things about CINC here in just one second. So Matt, I haven't forgot. We lead with revenue. We're going to focus on your net income, not your gross income. The ROT, Offie, I want you to think about this. Return on investment means when you buy CINC and they do a guarantee that says, if you're not going to get X, then we're going to give you your platform for another longer period of time. They give you a guarantee. That's called return on investment. If you don't understand ROT, you'll never get ROI. And that means return on time. So if you spend an hour doing something, what's the highest amount of money you make on that hour? And you'll make more money in ROI on CINC if you invest the ROT time doing the right activities. Make sense? And so we focus on return on time. Like, let me just punch y'all in the gut, because I love that, just the concept of it. Anything you do in your business that you could outsource or delegate for $25 an hour or less, you shouldn't be doing it. And if you do it, what you're saying to your family is they're not worth $25 an hour to you, because you're choosing to do the task instead of delegating it. And that's why teams are dominating in the marketplace, because people realize the way you create leverage is by having additional people. So here's why CINC is such a good partner with Workman. So we focus on teams, and in teams, we've learned that lead generation is not the problem. It's the perception of the problem. Everybody thinks they need more leads. We know that when you have the right platform and you follow predictable greatness systems, we get a predictable result. We can generate leads with our CINC platform at any level of business. If you put the time in and you reinvest small portions of your return back into lead gen, and CINC's taken it to a whole different platform with their guarantee program. So Matt, would you just kind of describe to us your new program?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Verl. So the bottom line is this. These are unpredictable times, right? We know that there's a lot of fear in the market, and there's a lot of fear and trepidation amongst real estate agents and teams as well, right? Is the money and time I'm investing in solutions going to yield me any kind of return, right? That's the big fear that's out there. And that's whether you're spending $100 a month on a solution or $1,000 a month on a solution. And so what we're trying to do here at CINC is create a risk-free environment for agents to know that when they invest money, they're going to see a return on it. We're going to guarantee that return. And if we can't make them successful by adhering to those best practices and standards, right? So we not only guarantee the success, we're not only so confident in our ability to help make you successful, we're willing to put our money where our mouth is, and we show you the roadmap for how to do it. We've analyzed over 5 million leads, over 2,000 clients over the past 10 years. And we know exactly what effort it takes, what activity it takes in our system with a huge number of data points to show us what leads to an online conversion of a lead to a transaction for real estate, right? And so we map that out for you, and then we help you along the way by showing you what it takes. And if you adhere to those standards, right, and the activity necessary to be successful, we will guarantee your success on the platform. And if we don't, we'll cover the cost of your platform up to the next 12 months. So you have 12 months, right? And we guarantee you're going to see a return by way of offering, you're guaranteeing you 2 transactions minimum, right? We expect 2 to 4 in the first year. That's to just give you that backstop to know, I know my money is not going into a black hole. By the end of year 2, we expect you to see 6-figure returns on CINC, right? And these are based on real numbers from average agents, right? We took our very top performing, 3%, 5% converters out of that math, because we want everybody to know this is attainable and achievable for anyone who comes in and puts in the necessary work. So if you'd like to hear more about that, we're going to drop a link in here as well. So you can sign up to have a product expert walk you through exactly what that entails and how to get signed up for that. But thanks, Verl. And it is, to Verl's point, right? This is why this is such a symbiotic relationship between Workman's success and CINC, right? Because the systems that Verl has put together are exactly the activity, right? It lines up perfectly with what we know it takes to convert a lead from initial interest all the way through to a transaction. So thanks again, Verl. Appreciate it.
You bet. So let's take a minute, and I've got a closing slide to get you all excited, but let's take a minute and just answer some questions. Heidi wants to know how much you should be planning on spending to get a 6-figure income with CINC. Like what kind of a monthly spend in ad spend? Well, it depends on what market she's in, what her average sales price is, but let's just pretend her average commission is 10,000. So she got to do 10 transactions in a year.
So in year 1, you're going to spend about $15,000.
I mean, that's 2 deals. In year 2, will it go up, or will you have all your year 1 leads that haven't converted and then you keep going? If you're already,
it grows exponentially over time, right? And then the more money you invest in your marketing, you get exponential returns on every incremental dollar you spend, because you've got the cost of the platform associated. So every dollar you spend over and above, and by the way, as part of this program, and I know I'm giving away a little bit too much on it, we also invest back into your business $500 a month for the first year. So we pay for your advertising for year 1 up to $500 a month. So that's $6,000 in free leads. In year 2, that's on you. But by the end of year 1, you're going to want to buy as many leads as you can possibly work, because again, you'll be seeing exponential returns from it.
Yeah. So marketing spend 500 to whatever. So let me tell you how we do it in coaching. So if I were coaching you and you're a CINC user, what we do is we look at everything you're spending money on, and my number is 6x. And so if you're spending $500 a month, I expect $3,000 a month in return. If you're not getting that, the first question I ask is why. There are no bad leads, only people who aren't ready yet. And so I want to go look at all of the things you're saying, all of the touch points you're having. Are we using text messaging? Are we using social? Are we doing all of the things necessary to keep at the front of the mind of the client? So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out why we're not converting. And then once we figure out we get our conversions at 6x, then we can double it. So then we double our spend and we double our sales. We double it again and we double it again. We've had clients go from having spends of $250 a month to $10,000 a month, and can you continue to get 6x. The problem is we generate more leads than we can handle. So I want you to think about this, because this is a bigger problem. When as a leader, you buy CINC and you generate more than 25 leads a month, you don't have the bandwidth to follow up with them and go out and show houses and go out and list houses and do your client transactions. And so what happens is you have the good intention of following up, but you don't have the time to do it. That's why we bring in a buyer's agent to every 25 leads we generate, because I want to get you out of working with buyers and focused on business development and people development. And then once you give a buyer's agent 25 deals a month, and they're working their top 50s and they're doing their daily success habits, and they're each doing 2 deals a month, you start realizing how many resources there are for you to reinvest in other things in your business. So there's a formula to conversion. There's a formula to ROI, and that's why we do it. And Nadine, we get a lot of fake leads as well. And that's all part of the conversion process. You know what I say when I get a fake lead? You guys, I'm going to give you the dialogue for this. This is emotional intelligence. You ready for it? Everybody write this down. Bad leads come in, fake leads. Oh, how about the people that say, never call me again, you psycho. I don't know how you got my number, even though they put it in your platform. Like, you get those? Here's the dialogue. You ready? Next. Like, they don't know you. Darren, there's no way they could be rejecting you. Look at this guy. He's a great guy. They're rejecting the concept of you. And you haven't earned the right to have a conversation with them. So let's give them something of value. And if it's just a bad deal, you delete it and go to the next one. Stop being so dramatic about it. Just say next. And just, it's a numbers game. I want to know how many dials I have to have a conversation, how many conversations it takes to get an appointment, how many appointments I need to get a buyer listing agreement signed. And then once I get that dialed in, I just duplicate the activities that give me the results. And everything else becomes secondary. It's not secret and it's not like magical, but there's a process and a system to greatness if you want it to be predictable. How many of you believe right now, and you can tell me honestly, that there's another level you could be performing at, really? How many of you believe like there's another level? Is there anybody that would like to go there? Like genuinely want to go there? Because if you really want to get there, then raise your hand and let's talk, because I can help you get there. There's no, I'll tell you one thing I've really learned, and that's this. The difference between really high performing agents and average agents rarely has to do with the quality of the individual. It has more to do with the activities they focus on. I have really average people making $5 and $6 million, and I have really smart, brilliant, exceptional people making less than 100,000 because they don't focus on the right activities because they think they know more than anybody else. And so what I want to do is I really want to help you. Like John Neighbor, president of the U.S. Olympians, I was talking to him one day and he said, I asked him, I said, John, who do you coach? Who do you work with? John's got like 4 gold medals and 3 silvers. He's a freak, just unbelievable. You know, you're more likely to win the lottery than you are to get an Olympic gold medal, and to have 4 of them is just like crazy. And John said to me, I'll tell you who I coach. He says, have you ever seen a puppy like with a little boy at a park and the kid's holding on to that puppy and he's pulling him through the park and the kid's like hanging on, trying to go? He says, I coach that puppy. He says, if I have to put a piece of hamburger in front of your nose, or I have to put a thing and pull you, or I have to nudge you along, he says, I don't need you. He says, I want you to be like, put me in, coach. Let's go. Where am I? I'm hungry. Let's go. And that's kind of then my philosophy at Workman is, who do we coach? We coach that puppy. So if you're that puppy and you really want help, then reach out to one of my guys. Here's my closing slide. Matt, is there anything else? I'm looking for any other comments or questions anybody has. I think we've dealt with most of them. I love that so many people want to go to the next level. By the way, in our daily success habits, we know that when you're prospecting, your return on time is $7,000 an hour. So if you focus on the right things, are you doing $7,000 an hour activities? That's how we get to predictable greatness. Okay, I'm gonna give you my closing slide. This is how I feel about life and everything in between. Right now is not the time to be scared and on the sideline. Now's the time to go for it. I believe that, and I genuinely believe that life is not a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving pretty and safely in a well-preserved body, but rather to skid in broadside, thoroughly used up, totally worn out, loudly proclaiming, woo! What a ride. Let's have a great ride the rest of this 2023 together. Everybody, thanks for being here. What a great group. Love the engagement. We'll make sure you have a link to the download. Use your shift modules. Give us feedback and let's go. Matt, thanks for having me. What a great group.
Thank you so much, Furl. What a great hour we've had. Really appreciate everybody's time. Hope everyone has a fantastic day. We'll see you next time.